Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Authenticate. Hope you had a good day yesterday, a good night last night. Maybe you were able to get out and enjoy some of this elusive Seattle sunshine that we're seeing right now, which is lovely. So here we are in day 2 of Authenticate. I thought as Bob Lord's keynote yesterday was set a really good tone for the next couple of days. The call to arms I thought was very spot on. And I think what he pointed to is the need for collective action and transparency and information sharing, and ultimately we're really all in this this move past passwords together. Lots of progress, lots of learning, and lots of work to do. So to that end, I'm happy to kick off today's keynote sessions by introducing Microsoft. As I mentioned yesterday, Microsoft's commitment to FIDO and passwordless goes well beyond words and press releases. Their commitment's outstanding between extensive support for FIDO in Windows, every Windows desktop, Azure AD. They've really helped accelerate the market and all their enterprise customers and now consumers to move towards a passwordless future. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce Dana Huang and Pam Dingle to kick off today's session.
Right, we're going to fight over the clicker. It's going to be entertaining, I promise.
Exactly.
All right, well, everyone, welcome to day 2 of Authenticate 2021. We're so happy to be here in person. It feels so good. And we're also really happy to be here to talk also to all the people online. We know that a lot of the advances that have happened in technology in the last year have actually made it better for remote attendance to conferences like this. So it's a good step forward, we think and hope.
Who you are?
So my name is Pamela Dingle. I am the Director of Identity Standards at Microsoft.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Dana Huang. I'm a Director of Engineering in Azure Platform Security. Happy to be here with Pam today to talk about Microsoft's journey to passwordless.
Yes. So we think we want to start this off by simply saying congratulations to everyone in this room. We have achieved an incredible milestone this year specifically, and we're in a really good place for strong authentication. If you think about where we are right now, we have active participation by all of the major platform vendors in the FIDO Alliance, and that's incredible, really incredible. We have cross-device support, right? A cross-device technology that I believe is one of the strongest cross-device security mechanisms in the industry, bar none. We have browser support across all of the major browsers, and we have real-life implementations going on right now. So this is real, it's happening, and we're ready to go. So here's the thing, though. It doesn't happen without everyone in this room. Whether you are a customer who's had an implementation, who's actually putting this stuff into service, whether you are a vendor who's invested and bet their business on this kind of technology, or whether you're a standards person who has been slogging for 10 years to make sure that this work can come to completion. It's the work of the people who are in this room right now that means that we have an option for the future. And so thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of you. Yahoo! Yes, thank you. All right, so that's, from an industry perspective, we're in a really good place right now. Let's talk a little bit about where Microsoft is in their journey. It's been a great year, an absolutely fantastic year for us. We've had some amazing announcements. And here's the other thing. For years now, we have been talking about a 4-step road to passwordless. Some of you have probably seen that slide 50 times, right? 4 steps to passwordless. First, we had to work with the industry to develop a solution that was capable of acting as a passwordless alternative. That's done. We did that. Next, we had to, as Microsoft, go into all of our user experiences and figure out how an experience that used to only always presume passwords could be changed so that it could be more flexible and allow for other alternatives. We've done that. It's done. Next, we had to go through all of our back-end services and look at all of the places where passwords were presumed and required, right? We call that legacy authentication. We defined those places where legacy authentication existed, and we had to replace them, right, with modern authentication. We did that. There's still work to be done there. That's not something that's going to be over altogether, but we got it done. And just about a month ago, I would say, we actually announced in our consumer practice, so that's Xbox.com, Outlook.com, places where consumers would use a Microsoft account, we announced that you can now delete passwords altogether from your account. Completely gone. You can only use strong authentication, and in doing that, you're deleting the risks and frustrations that come with it. That is a big day for us, and I just want to say congratulations to all the people at Microsoft and all the people in the industry that worked to make that possible. Now, we're one step away from that in enterprise still. So you still have to have a password right now in our enterprise offerings, but we're on that journey. We're getting there. So that's a huge, huge step for us. We don't know what to do now. We can't show our 4-step slide. Like whatever will we do next, you might ask. So that's where we are as far as our big announcements. But Dana, maybe you can walk the folks through some really interesting numbers that we also have.
Absolutely. Microsoft have implemented passwordless options in the last few years, as Pam said, in Windows and other identity. Our teams has been pushing hard for the adoption since then. Let's take a look at the numbers. Microsoft Account, MSA, is a consumer identity where you can log on to services like Xbox, OneDrive, Microsoft Store, and other services. Passwordless Microsoft Account was announced in mid-September. With the solution, consumers can really just having their MSA account without password at all, and instead using FIDO keys, Windows Hello, and phone authenticators to log on for secure authentication. The number of consumers who have completely deleted their passwords spiked in the first week after our announcement, and the momentum is exceeded our goals by 5 times in the first week. And that momentum continues in October, which is now showing on the chart. It's very exciting for the team in Microsoft to see this. On the enterprise side, we have seen customer demands and solution offerings both expanding. In the last 6 months, since we launched the temporary access pass, it was adopted rapidly and with impressive 37 times increase in the 6 months. Temporary access pass provides the passwordless option for provisioning, for enrollment, recovery, and really is critical to address the challenges like many of us talk about lifecycle management of authenticators. FIDO keys and phone authenticator app also started acceleration in the last year, more than doubled adopted in the last 6 months. And Windows Hello for Business has been there for a couple years, continues with a very strong, steady growth, increased by 40% in 6 months. All of these are really big numbers in tens and hundreds and thousands, and Windows Hello for Business actually is a massive number in millions. Putting it together, you see this very impressive growth of TAP, and adding in FIDO keys, adding in phone authenticator, and lastly, adding in Windows Hello for Business. This is our active users, the enterprise customer already showing. They have multiple options for passwordless solutions, and the momentum is really strong. Now, on the relying party side, our telemetry data shows the number of relying parties making WebAuthn calls on Windows have also picked up speed this year. We have seen monthly calls to WebAuthn tripled this year, and the number of relying parties on Windows that are active increased by 3 times in the last 2 years. This is only third-party, we call third-party relying parties, doesn't including Microsoft services, and of course, our Microsoft internal services, majority of them are adopted WebAuthn already. So combining the 2 data sets, it's very, very exciting to see this trend, and the time comes now. So with the numbers showing very great trend on secure authentication, enterprise infrastructure and deployments are really complex, and we all know that. So there are still lots of challenges for us to overcome. We have heard customer feedbacks, and including many people in this room, are very vocal about the importance of usability and also the challenges in dealing with lifecycle management of the authenticators. We hear that, and we're looking into solutions to address those. Scenarios like B2X, it's coming, and for guest access. And also there are some concerns on the safety of biometrics data, and also the cost of authenticators with hardware investment are key factors affecting our enterprise deployment. This is a very specific, probably a subset of feedback we heard from customers. Is only a slice of the overall challenges we are facing. Pam, do you have any insight to share on the global trend?
Yeah, I would love to do that. And the global trends are very interesting because they take in the bigger picture. And a lot of the reasons why we're collecting global trends right now is because of breaches. So we are strongly tracking what kinds of attacks are occurring, what kinds of authentication is used at the time the attack might be occurring, and who's being targeted and when. And we want to make sure to share that with you. So luckily, coincidentally, shall we say, Microsoft has just put out a report that we call the MDDR, the Microsoft Digital Defense Report. This report is a gold mine for data. It's hundreds of pages long. It talks through a ton of authentication-related, security-related detail. And it gives that detail in ways that you can, cut out the pictures and send them to your leadership. So it's a really great way to show ROI or to show demand for the types of strong authentication that we work on here right now. So let's take a look at some of the things that are in the Microsoft Digital Defense Report. So first of all, we want to talk about phishing. If any of you here think that phishing probably doesn't apply to you, that you're too small to be targeted, that the attackers are only looking for the big fish, you need to think again. What is happening right now is the entire supply chain is being targeted. If you have customers, if you are a customer to another entity, you now have to think about both your security and the security of that entity, because that's what attackers are doing. They're coming in, they're phishing your partners, and then they're using that partner relationship to try to get into your organization. So that's the first one. You have to be aware, no matter how big you are. Next one. So next one is about phishing. For whatever reason, if you look at the light blue bars in this chart is from June 2020 to July 2021. And what you're seeing is that phishing has become a larger and larger threat. It is now responsible for 70% of the breaches that we're seeing today. Now, I think we all know this. I think that the reason why we've worked so hard on the technology we work on is because we believe phishing-resistant software is important. But it's really nice to show what the risk is and what the threat is. All right, next up. So we have seen a huge increase in adoption in strong authentication in the last year, and that's an amazing indicator of momentum for the industry. So 220% increase in the adoption of strong authentication. It's another really positive signal that you can send back to your leadership. The other thing that needs to be pointed out is that every account matters. Every account. Now, you may have to take a triage type of approach to strong authentication. You may have to start with your administrators, protecting your administrators most strongly. But the truth is that any account that can be compromised can become a wedge by which an attacker can move laterally across your enterprise. And so you need to think about what every single user might be at risk for. And the one thing that's really interesting about this particular graph is just how commoditized compromised accounts are. 97 cents for 1,000, depending on the type of account. So if an attacker can compromise even 1% of your company's users, they can sell it. They're not going to make much money, but they'll just bundle them all together and make the profit they can. So nobody has to brute force your users. They just have to buy them. All right, and so from here, I think we should talk a little bit about the government sector and where the data shows our governmental interactions. Dana?
Great. Let me add another view into the cyber attacks on by industry sectors. Cyber criminals is really targeting all sectors with critical infrastructure, and as you can see, the government sector is the top target of all. Every single threat actor that Microsoft tracked in the last year pointed to entities within the government sector. And the US executive order issued in May 2021, many of us know, on improving nation cybersecurity really outlines very significant steps for technology providers like all of us to really leaning in on IT modernization, improve the instant response, and enhance the software supply chain securities. Zero trust security strategy is definitely emphasized again to mitigate the supply risks. And from identity point of view, multi-factor authentication is definitely a priority. So the actionable learnings from this report is really that in order to just reduce the impact from the attacks, all of us and all of the technologies must apply a very good cyber hygiene and implement the architecture that supports zero trust and also ensure that cyber risks are really mitigated in every aspect of business. This is a very comprehensive report with 100+ pages. Highly recommend to read the report to get deeper analysis and insights. So we have come a long way for secure authentication. Now switching gears to look into future, the journey ahead is more challenging, but very exciting. We talked about zero trust yesterday and probably throughout the last few months. Zero trust really assumes bridge. It assumes that any identity, any devices on the network is not secure. You have to use a strong authentication to validate the identity, and the devices have to be managed and validated as healthy as a condition access to any resources in the corporate network. The basics really matters, and in default security and also across scale and depth. So let's take a deeper look into each. So Microsoft are heavily investing in technologies across the endpoints and cloud to reach the default security state to be more secure. And on the endpoint side, we're investing on the full stack from hardware security for root trust to firmware, supply chain protection, to software in the stack of tokens, credentials, and transport layer security all up. On the cloud side, tokens, credentials, identities for both human and services are really at the center of our investment. And in addition to trusted launch, protecting the host and container platforms, and governance for least privilege, RBAC, and also just mitigating the risk. So Pam, what are we doing to reach scale?
Well, it's actually pretty exciting stuff. Sort of one of the features that we're working on, which has been heavily asked for by you all, in fact, is to look at what it means. What it means to provision items like security keys at scale. So we're working on, simple things like, can you ship a bunch of security keys with a temporary pin attached to it? There's a couple of people smiling here, I think, which is great. So that's something we're working on quite a lot. We're obviously working on platform authenticator interoperability. We want to make sure that we can have a consistent experience across all of the platforms, and so we are working hard with Google and with Apple to make sure that that we're doing this together. Additionally, we're just constantly looking to get rid of barriers. We're trying to pull apart all of our systems, and what that means is that for us to really operate at scale, it means we have to operate across all our platforms. We have to be able to operate our security work by pulling in signal from sources everywhere. So we're basically trying to do more, better, stronger, cross-cloud, cross-device, cross everything else. So just think of it as the cross strategy, shall we? All right, and let's go to the next one. So the next one is security in depth, which is really a very different problem than security at scale. So it's not good enough to be able to have these basics in place. We have to be able to continue to drive, default security practices into everything we do at every layer. And so, when you talk about security mitigation, we're talking about better precision in our risk detection. We're talking about better signals and source coming from everywhere we can possibly get signals and source from. We're talking about faster identification of issues and faster remediation when those issues are determined. We are talking about, in the security architecture department, we're talking about driving trust deeper and deeper into the operating system and, where possible, anchoring in hardware. We strongly believe that items like secure elements and TPMs are absolutely critical security mechanisms, and that we should be able to chain attestations directly from hardware. And then lastly, in ecosystem security, obviously we can't do this only in our silo. We have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to facilitate systems and domains securely interacting with each other. And that's where everyone here comes in. We have to be able to invite guests, that use different products. We have to be able to invite partners, or enable partners who might be smaller, who may be less sophisticated. And then lastly, we want to share signals. So when you talk about transparency and talk about a conversation, we're looking at standards like continuous access evaluation protocol as some examples of how we can send signals across domains so that people can start to have a sense of the overall systems operation, the ecosystem operation and security posture. So the bottom line is, we can't do this alone. We can't do this without everyone here. And no one can do it alone. We all have to collaborate. We have to work together. We have to be transparent. We have to be able to, to trust that the other entities in our world are also putting security at the heart of their goals and their philosophies. So we want to leave you just with a couple of very quick recommendations here. So number one recommendation, if we don't talk about anything else here, I hope that you're getting the idea that the thing that you have to do is turn on MFA. We don't care what kind. You can turn on any kind of MFA. It can be the worst MFA. It can be the absolute worst. We will be so happy, because any MFA will get you a huge way to being more secure. And we hope that you go on a journey. You start looking at how passwords are used, in your companies or using your products, and that you can also get to that phishing-resistant future that we think everyone needs to get to. You want any comments, Dana?
Yeah, there are other resources. Actually, I mentioned Microsoft Digital Defense Report, highly recommend it. Windows 11 security book. It's a very comprehensive white paper that can read really deeper into understanding Windows 11, what we're doing from the security point of view. And many good resources in here. So, well, thank you for taking the time and listening to our journey. We're excited. I hope you are too. So we have more sessions today, today, tomorrow. You can definitely welcome to join the session to learn deeper into what Microsofts are doing. Pam and I will be here throughout the whole week. So any questions or any comments or feedback, want to talk to us, please find us. And I'm Dana, and Dana Huang and Pam.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.